The cold bit through everything that night, through leather, through skin, through the kind of silence that comes before something changes forever. 25 Hell's Angels, frozen to their cores, engines dead on a highway where help doesn't come. Then Christine opened her door. A single mom in a town that had forgotten her, offering warmth to men the world had taught her to fear. She didn't know their names, didn't ask for anything, just gave what she had: hot coffee, blankets, her living room floor. By dawn, they were gone. She thought that was the end of it. She was wrong. The next morning, the sound came first, a rumble that shook windows 3 blocks away, that made her 6-year-old daughter press her face to the glass with wide eyes. 1,500 motorcycles, 1,500 Hell's Angels, lined up outside her small house like an army. Christine's hands trembled on the doorknob. What she'd done for 25 strangers was about to change everything, but not in any way she could have imagined. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Christine Murphy was deciding between heat and groceries, the kind of choice that breaks something inside you each time you make it. She stood in her kitchen, the one where the cabinet door hung crooked and the linoleum had been peeling for 2 years, and stared at the thermostat like it was an enemy. 62 degrees. Maya, her daughter, was already wearing 2 sweaters. "Mommy, I'm cold," Maya said from the couch, wrapped in every blanket they owned, her small voice cutting through Christine's calculations. "I know, baby, I know." Christine turned the heat up to 65, 3 degrees. That's what love cost tonight, 3 degrees, and whatever it meant for next week's budget. She'd figure it out. She always did, even when figuring it out meant choosing which bill to pay late, which apology to rehearse with which utility company. Outside, the November wind howled through Ridgefield like it had a personal grudge. This town in northern Montana had never been kind, but it had been home once. Back when Christine's parents were alive. Back when she had a husband, instead of divorce papers, and a forwarding address in California. Back before single motherhood became her entire identity, and the local diner stopped calling her in for shifts. The town had a long memory for scandal. Didn't matter that Derek had been the one to leave, the one to empty their joint account, the one to choose his secretary over his family. Somehow, Christine was the one who ended up invisible. The other moms at Maya's school smiled tight, polite smiles that never reached their eyes. The church ladies whispered. The landlord raised her rent. She was 28 and felt 50. At 9:47 p.m., Christine heard the sound. At first, she thought it was thunder, that deep, rolling rumble that comes before a storm. But it didn't fade. It grew closer, splitting into distinct mechanical growls, the unmistakable roar of motorcycles. Lots of them. Maya sat up, blankets falling away. "What's that?" "I don't know." Christine moved to the window, pulled back the thin curtain. The street outside her small rental house erupted with headlights. Motorcycles rolled to a stop, one after another, until 25 bikes lined the curb. Big men in leather cuts climbed off, stamping feet, blowing into their hands. Even from inside, Christine could see them shivering. Hell's Angels. The patches on their backs were unmistakable, the death-head skull grinning in the porch light from her neighbor's house. Every instinct Christine had learned in Ridgefield screamed at her to turn off the lights, lock the door, pretend she wasn't home. These were the men mothers warned their daughters about. The outlaws. The danger your teachers never mentioned by name but everyone knew to avoid. But Christine saw something else, too. She saw men who looked half-frozen, whose breath came out in great clouds of white. She saw one guy, huge, probably 6'4", beard down to his chest, actually hunched against the cold, arms wrapped around himself. She saw another one, younger, maybe early 20s, with lips that had gone blue. They weren't revving their engines or yelling or doing any of the things she'd been taught to expect. They were just stuck. Broken down in the worst cold snap Montana had seen in 15 years. The temperature had dropped to 8 degrees, and the wind chill made it feel like 20 below. Christine's phone was in her hand before she fully decided. She called the one number in Ridgefield that might matter, the gas station that doubled as the only tow service for 50 miles. "Hi, Tom. It's Christine Murphy. There's a group of motorcyclists broken down on Birch Street. They need help. Can you, bikers?" Tom's voice went cold. "The Hell's Angels group that rolled through this afternoon?" "Yes, there. I'm not going out there." "You shouldn't either, Christine. Lock your doors." The line went dead. Christine stood there, phone still pressed to her ear, watching through her window as the big bearded guy tried to get one of the bikes started again. The engine coughed, died. He slammed his palm against the handlebars in frustration. "Mommy," Maya had come to stand beside her, small hand slipping into Christine's. "Are they okay?" No, Christine thought, they're not. She looked down at her daughter, 6 years old, with Derek's dark hair and Christine's determination. Maya, who'd watched her mother cry in the bathroom when the eviction notice came. Maya, who'd eaten cereal for dinner 3 nights last week without complaining. Maya, who still believed people were basically good. Christine didn't want to be the one to teach her daughter that the world was cruel. That you only helped people who looked like you, talked like you, fit into the neat little boxes that towns like Ridgefield required. She didn't want Maya to grow up learning to lock doors against anyone different. "Stay here," Christine said. She grabbed her coat, threadbare but warm enough, and stepped out onto her porch. The cold hit her like a physical thing, stealing her breath. God, how were they even alive out here? 25 pairs of eyes turned to look at her. 25 men who wore danger like a second skin, who probably had wrapped sheets longer than her grocery lists, who made her heart pound so hard she could feel it in her throat. The big bearded one stepped forward. Up close, he was even more intimidating, 6'5" at least, with scars on his knuckles and eyes that had seen things Christine probably couldn't imagine. His cut red Reaper across the top, with a Montana bottom rocker. "Ma'am," he said, and his voice was surprisingly gentle. Rough, like gravel, but gentle. "We don't want to bother you. Our bikes died, something with the cold, the electrical systems are shot. We've been calling for help, but no one's coming," Christine finished. "I called Tom at the gas station. He refused." Reaper's jaw tightened. "Yeah. We figured." Behind him, the younger guy with the blue lips started coughing, deep, racking coughs that sounded like they came from somewhere dangerous in his chest. One of the others moved to steady him, concern clear on his weathered face. Christine made a decision that she knew might be stupid, might be dangerous, might be the kind of thing people in Ridgefield would talk about for years. She didn't care. "Come inside," she said. 25 Hell's Angels stared at her like she'd just offered them the moon. "Ma'am, we can't," Reaper started. "It's 8 degrees out here. Wind chill makes it worse. That kid is coughing like he has pneumonia, and I can see at least 3 of you shaking so hard you're about to fall over. I don't have much, but I have heat and I have coffee." Christine's voice was steadier than she felt. "So yes, you can. Come inside before you freeze to death on my lawn, and I have to explain it to my daughter." She turned and walked back into her house before they could argue, before she could second-guess herself, before the fear could catch up with common sense. Behind her, she heard the sound of boots on her porch steps. Her living room had never held more than 5 people at once. Suddenly, it held 25 men who smelled like leather and cold and engine oil, who had to duck under her doorframe, who filled every inch of space until Christine felt like she was swimming through bodies just to reach her kitchen. "Maya, honey, can you go to your room for a bit?" Christine said, and thank God, her daughter nodded and slipped away, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "Okay," Christine said, facing the small army in her living room. "I'm going to make coffee. There are blankets in that closet. The bathroom is down the hall if anyone needs it. I'm sorry I don't have more to offer." "You're offering more than anyone else in this town," said a guy with silver in his beard and Sergeant-at-Arms patches on his cut. His name Patch Red Smoke, more than anyone in the last 3 towns, actually. Christine moved to her kitchen, hyper-aware of all these men in her space, and started making coffee. She had 1 pot that made 12 cups. She'd have to make 3 rounds at least. Her hands shook slightly as she measured grounds, filled the reservoir with water. Reaper appeared in her kitchen doorway. Somehow he'd learned how to make 6'5" less intimidating. He stood carefully, kept his hands visible, his voice low. "Thank you," he said. "You didn't have to do this." "You would have died out there," Christine said simply. "Yeah. Probably," he paused. "I'm Marcus. People call me Reaper." "Christine." She didn't offer her hand. Something about the moment felt too raw for handshakes. "Christine Murphy, you have a kid." It wasn't a question, but Christine nodded anyway. "Maya, she's 6. And you still let us in." "My daughter asked if you were okay. What was I supposed to tell her? That we let people freeze because we're afraid of them." Christine poured the first pot of coffee into whatever mugs she had, mismatched, chipped, but clean. "Fear's not a lesson I want to teach her." "Marcus," Reaper, looked at her like she was something rare, something he hadn't expected to find in a nowhere town in Montana. "Most people teach their kids to fear us," he said quietly. "They're usually right to." "Are they?" Christine met his eyes. "Should I be afraid right now?" "No," the word came fast, certain. "You're the safest person in Ridgefield tonight. My brothers and I would die before we let anything happen to you or your daughter. That's a promise." And somehow, standing in her tiny kitchen with this massive biker who should have terrified her, Christine believed him. The next 3 hours were strange and surreal. 25 Hells Angels filled her living room, wrapped in her blankets, drinking her coffee, slowly thawing out. They were surprisingly polite, quiet, respectful, careful not to touch anything they didn't need to. The young kid with the cough, his name was Tyler, and he was only 19, sat near the heater vent, wrapped in 2 blankets while smoke watched over him like a concerned father. Christine learned things she never expected. That Marcus had been riding for 30 years, since he was barely old enough to drive. That Smoke had grandkids he was trying to get home to see for Thanksgiving. That Tyler was the nephew of their chapter president, and this was his first long ride with the club. That most of these men had regular jobs, construction, mechanics, one guy who managed a feed store, and the club was their brotherhood, their family, the thing that made sense when nothing else did. Before we continue with what happened next, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Are you somewhere warm? Somewhere cold like Ridgefield, Montana? Drop your location in the comments. I love knowing where this story is reaching. And if you're invested in what happens to Christine and these 25 bikers, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next morning? It's something nobody could have predicted. Trust me, you'll want to see this through to the end. By 2 a.m., the tow truck finally came. Not Tom, he'd stuck to his refusal, but a guy from the next county over who Marcus knew from years back. The bikes got loaded up, the electrical systems would be fixed by morning, and the angels started filing out of Christine's house. Each one stopped to thank her. Some just nodded. Some shook her hand with a gentleness that belied their scarred knuckles. Smoke pressed a $20 bill into her palm. "For the coffee," he said. "I can't. You can, you did." His eyes were kind. "Thank you for seeing us as human." Marcus was the last to leave. He stood on her porch, and for a moment, Christine thought he might say something profound. Instead, he just looked at her small house, her peeling paint, the way her porch light flickered. "You take care of yourself, Christine Murphy," he said. "You too, Reaper." She watched them ride away, bikes fixed, engines roaring back to life, until the taillights disappeared into the darkness. Then she went inside, locked the door, and stood in her living room that still smelled like leather and coffee. Maya appeared in the hallway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Are the nice bikers gone?" "Yeah, baby, they're gone." "Good, I'm glad they were okay," Maya yawned. "Can we make pancakes tomorrow?" "Sure, sweetheart, pancakes tomorrow." Christine tucked Maya back into bed, then collapsed on her couch. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt oddly empty, like something significant had happened and ended all at once. Like she'd touched something real, genuine human connection, and now it was over. She fell asleep there, still in her clothes, too tired to even make it to her bedroom. The sound woke her 6 hours later. At first, Christine thought she was dreaming. The rumble was too big, too impossible, the kind of sound that belonged in movies or nightmares, not in real life. But it grew louder, closer, until it rattled the windows and made the pictures on her walls vibrate. Christine stumbled to the window, still half asleep, and pulled back the curtain. She stopped breathing. Motorcycles, hundreds of them. Maybe more than hundreds. They filled her street, the intersections, stretching down the block as far as she could see. A sea of leather and chrome and death head patches, engines idling in perfect synchronization, creating a sound like sustained thunder. 1,500 Hells Angels. Christine's mind couldn't process it, couldn't understand what she was seeing. "Mommy!" Maya pressed her face to the window beside Christine, eyes wide with wonder. "Look at all the motorcycles." The front door of the house across the street opened. Old Mrs. Henderson stepped out, face pale with shock. 2 houses down, the Martins came out onto their porch. Within minutes, the entire neighborhood had emerged, standing in doorways and on lawns, staring at the army of bikers that had descended on Birch Street. Christine's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. No messages, no explanation. Just 1,500 motorcycles outside her house and no idea why they were there. Then she saw Marcus. Reaper stood at the front of the formation, his bike directly in front of her walkway. Behind him, Smoke and Tyler and all the others from last night. And behind them, an ocean of brothers. Marcus caught her eye through the window. He nodded once, a small, almost imperceptible gesture, and raised his hand. Every engine cut off at once. The silence was deafening. Christine didn't remember making the decision to go outside. Suddenly she was just there, standing on her porch in yesterday's clothes and bare feet on cold concrete, staring at a scene that couldn't possibly be real. Marcus walked toward her. Behind him the angels watched, not threatening, not aggressive, just present, witnessing. "Christine Murphy," Marcus said, his voice carrying in the silence. "Last night you showed kindness to 25 strangers in their worst moment. You opened your door when the rest of this town locked theirs. You gave warmth, coffee, and dignity to men that most people cross the street to avoid." Christine couldn't speak, couldn't process what was happening. "In the Hells Angels, we have a code," Marcus continued. "We take care of our own. We remember debts, we honor those who honor us." He gestured to the army behind him. "Word went out last night. Through the state network, the chapter presidents, every angel who could ride. We wanted you to know what you did mattered. You matter." Tears burned in Christine's eyes. She tried to blink them back and failed. "We heard about your situation," Smoke stepped forward, his voice gentle. "Heard you're struggling, heard this town hasn't been kind, so we took up a collection. Every angel here contributed what they could." He held out an envelope. Christine took it with trembling hands, opened it. Inside was cash, stacks of bills, more money than she'd seen in years. Her breath caught. "That's $43,000, Marcus said quietly. "It's not charity, it's respect, it's gratitude. It's us saying that kindness like yours, real, fearless human kindness, that's worth something, that's worth everything." Christine's knees went weak. She actually stumbled, and Marcus caught her elbow, steadied her. "I can't," she whispered. "You can, you will." Marcus's voice was firm but kind. "You're going to pay your rent. You're going to buy groceries without choosing between them and heat. You're going to give your daughter the Christmas she deserves. And you're going to know that you've got 1,500 brothers who will ride through hell for you if you ever need us." "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why would you do this?" "Because last night you saw us. Not the patches, not the reputation, not the fear. You saw human beings who needed help and you helped. No judgment. No conditions, just kindness." Marcus's eyes were bright. "That's rarer than you think, Christine. That's worth protecting, worth honoring." Behind him, 1,500 Hell's Angels raised their fists in unison, a silent salute that made Christine's breath catch all over again. She stood there on her porch, envelope clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face, and felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Seen, valued, not alone. Maya appeared beside her, slipping her small hand into Christine's. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "Because sometimes," Christine whispered, "the people you're taught to fear are the ones who save you." Marcus smiled, a real smile, warm and genuine. "You got a good kid there. You're doing something right." "Thank you," Christine managed. "Thank you all." "No, ma'am," Marcus turned, addressed his brothers. "Thank you for reminding us why we do this. Why brotherhood matters. Why kindness is never weakness." A roar went up from the angels, not aggressive, but celebratory, joyful, the sound of men who'd just been reminded what it meant to be human. The Hells Angels didn't leave immediately. They stayed for 2 hours, and in those 2 hours, everything Christine thought she knew about her town got turned inside out. Mrs. Henderson from across the street was the first to approach. She was 76, had lived in Ridgefield her whole life, and had never spoken more than 5 words to Christine since the divorce. She walked slowly toward the sea of leather, chin up, back straight despite her age. "Excuse me," she said to Smoke, who happened to be nearest. "I heard what you did for this young woman. I think that's wonderful. Would any of you like some coffee? I have fresh banana bread." Smoke blinked, clearly surprised. Then he smiled. "Yes, ma'am, we would love that." Within an hour, half the neighborhood had come out. Not everyone. The Johnsons stayed locked inside, and Christine saw curtains twitching in at least 3 houses where people were watching but too afraid to engage. But enough people came. The Martins brought thermoses of hot chocolate. Old Bill from the corner house, a Vietnam vet who never talked to anyone, came out and shook hands with Marcus, two warriors recognizing something in each other. Even Pastor Ruth from the Methodist Church showed up, looking nervous but determined. "I should have called you back," she told Christine quietly. "When you needed help with Maya's school clothes. I should have done more, I'm sorry." Christine didn't know what to say to that. The apology felt 3 years too late and exactly on time all at once. The angels were perfect ambassadors for their brotherhood. They talked to the neighbors with respect, played gently with the kids who approached their bikes with wide eyes, and made it clear through every word and action that they were there to honor Christine, not to intimidate anyone. Tyler, the young one who'd been coughing so hard last night, sat on Mrs. Henderson's porch eating banana bread and talking with her about his grandmother. Smoke helped old Bill fix a loose board on his fence. Marcus stood in Christine's yard, Maya perched on his shoulders, pointing out her favorite things about the motorcycles while Christine's heart did complicated things in her chest. Around noon, Tom from the gas station showed up. He pulled his truck to the end of the block, couldn't get closer because of all the bikes, and walked toward Christine's house with his head down, hands shoved in his pockets. Marcus saw him coming. His entire demeanor changed, going from warm to something harder, more guarded. The angels nearest him tensed. "You're the one who refused help last night," Marcus said, not a question. Tom stopped 10 feet away. "Yeah, that was me. You would have let us freeze." "I thought," Tom swallowed hard, "I thought you were dangerous, I thought. You thought wrong." Marcus's voice could have cut glass. "I know." Tom looked at Christine and there was real shame in his face. "I'm sorry, I should have come." "You shouldn't have had to." He gestured helplessly at her, at the angels, at the money envelope still visible through her front window. "You shouldn't have been the only one with the guts to do the right thing." Christine walked over, stood beside Marcus. This close, she could feel the tension radiating off him, the protective anger that made him dangerous. "Tom," she said quietly. "Thank you for saying that. It's not enough." "No," Christine agreed, "but it's a start." Marcus looked down at her, something like surprise flickering across his face. Then he nodded slowly, the tension easing just slightly. "You're a better person than I am," he told Christine. "I doubt that." Tom left after promising to give Christine's van a full tune-up, free of charge, whenever she needed it. It wasn't much, but it was something. A crack in the wall of isolation Ridgefield had built around her. By the time the angels finally prepared to leave, Christine felt like she was living in a different town. Or maybe just seeing the real town, the one that had always been there under the fear and judgment, waiting for someone brave enough to crack it open. Marcus was the last to say goodbye. Again. It seemed to be his role, first in, last out, always making sure everything was handled. "You're going to be okay," he told her. "I know." And for the first time in 3 years, Christine meant it. "We have chapters all over Montana. Idaho, Washington, you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call this number." He pressed a card into her hand. "Your family now, Christine. That means something to us. It means something to me, too." Christine looked at the card, at the phone number scrawled in Marcus's rough handwriting. "Thank you for all of this. For seeing me. You saw us first." Marcus mounted his bike, and the engine roared to life. Around him, 1,500 other engines answered. "Take care of that little girl. She's going to grow up to be special, she already is." "I will." "And Christine," Marcus looked back at her one more time, "don't ever stop being kind. The world needs it more than you know." Then they were gone, a river of leather and chrome flowing out of Ridgefield, leaving behind a wake of changed perspectives and a single mom who felt, for the first time since her divorce, like she might actually be able to breathe. The money changed everything and nothing at all. Christine paid 3 months of rent in advance. The look on her landlord's face when she handed over the cash, the shock, the confusion, the grudging respect, was worth almost as much as the financial security. She bought groceries without calculating every item, bought Maya new winter boots that actually fit, and put money aside in savings for the first time since the divorce. But the real change wasn't the money. It was the way Ridgefield looked at her now. Mrs. Henderson called her dear and invited her to Friday afternoon tea. The Martins asked if Maya wanted to play with their daughter. Pastor Ruth personally delivered a basket of food and an invitation to Sunday service with no pressure, no judgment, just genuine kindness. Even Tom waved when he saw her at the grocery store. The town hadn't transformed overnight. There were still people who whispered, still locked doors and judgmental eyes. But enough had shifted that Christine no longer felt invisible. She felt seen, connected, part of something bigger than her own struggle. Maya noticed the difference most. "Mommy, why is everyone being so nice now?" she asked one evening, 2 weeks after the angels had left. Christine thought about how to answer that. How to explain that sometimes it takes strangers showing you your own cowardice to make you brave. That sometimes the people you fear are mirrors showing you who you could be. "I think people just needed a reminder," Christine said finally. "That kindness is contagious, and so is courage." "Did the bikers teach them that?" "Yeah, baby. I think they did." December came with snow and cold that made November look gentle by comparison. Christine kept her heat at 68 degrees and didn't think twice about it. She started volunteering at Maya's school, something she'd been too ashamed to do before, too aware of her status as the divorced outsider. Now the other moms chatted with her. Not all of them, but enough. She thought about the angels often. About Marcus and Smoke and young Tyler. About men who society labeled as dangerous, but who had shown her more humanity than her own community. She wondered if they thought about her, or if she'd just been one good deed in a long string of brotherhood moments that blurred together over the years. Then, 3 days before Christmas, her doorbell rang. Christine opened it to find Marcus standing on her porch, a little girl about Maya's age holding his hand. She was bundled in a pink coat, dark curls spilling out from under her knit cap, and she had Marcus's eyes. "Hi," Marcus said, and he looked almost nervous. "I hope it's okay that I came by. We were passing through Ridgefield and I wanted you to meet my daughter. Christine, this is Lily. Lily, this is the brave lady I told you about." Lily looked up at Christine with solemn, assessing eyes. Then she smiled, a gap-toothed grin that transformed her whole face. "Daddy says you have a little girl who likes dinosaurs." "I do." Christine felt something warm bloom in her chest. "Would you like to meet her?" 20 minutes later, Maya and Lily were building block towers in the living room while Christine and Marcus sat at her kitchen table, drinking coffee that tasted infinitely better than the cheap stuff she'd served 25 freezing bikers a month ago. "You have a daughter," Christine said, still processing. "I do. She lives with her mom in Bozeman. We split when Lily was 2, but we're good co-parents. I get her every other weekend and holidays." Marcus wrapped his hands around his mug. "She's my whole world. I want her to grow up knowing that being tough doesn't mean being hard. That real strength is in the kindness you show, not the fear you inspire." That's beautiful. That's what you taught me." Marcus met her eyes. "Or reminded me anyway. I've been riding with the angels for 30 years. I've seen brotherhood at its best and worst. I've seen loyalty that would make you weep and violence that would make you sick. But that night, watching you open your door to 25 strangers who probably terrified you, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen." Christine felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I was scared." "I know, that's what made it brave." Marcus paused. "The club has been different since that night. Word spread about what happened here, about you. And it reminded a lot of brothers why we do this, why the brotherhood matters. We take care of our own, yeah. But we also try to honor the good in the world when we see it. You were that good, Christine." "I just made coffee." "You did more than that. You saw us as human. You'll never know how much that matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the girls laugh in the other room. It felt domestic, normal. Like maybe this, a biker and a single mom, both trying to raise daughters who believed in kindness, could be the start of something neither of them expected. "So," Marcus said slowly, "I was wondering if you'd be interested in, I don't know, maybe dinner sometime, when Lily's with her mom. No pressure, no expectations. Just 2 people who maybe understand each other a little better than most." Christine looked at this man, this massive, scarred, gentle man who'd brought 1,500 brothers to her doorstep just to say thank you, who had a daughter he clearly adored, who understood that real strength was in the softness, not the hard edges. "I'd like that," she said. Marcus smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Yeah, yeah." In the living room, Maya shrieked with laughter as her block tower collapsed, and Lily immediately started helping her rebuild it. 2 little girls who didn't know that their worlds weren't supposed to intersect, who just saw another kid to play with. Maybe that was the real lesson, Christine thought. That the walls between people, between bikers and civilians, between outcasts and insiders, between fear and connection, were only as solid as you let them be. That kindness could crack them open. That courage was often just choosing to see someone else's humanity instead of their reputation. "Thank you," Christine said quietly, "for coming back. Thank you for opening your door in the first place." Marcus reached across the table, and Christine met him halfway, their hands clasping in the middle. "I have a feeling this is just the beginning, Christine Murphy." "Good," Christine said. "I'm ready for a new beginning." Outside, snow began to fall, soft, gentle flakes that caught the light and made everything look clean and possible. Inside, two little girls played while their parents watched, and for the first time in 3 years, Christine felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The story wasn't over, it was just starting. And whatever came next, whether it was romance or just friendship, whether it lasted years or just this one perfect afternoon, Christine knew she'd be okay. Because she'd learned something that night when 25 angels knocked on her door. Fear was a choice, so was kindness. And when you chose kindness, even when it scared you, even when it went against everything you'd been taught, you opened doors to possibilities you never imagined. Sometimes those possibilities came with death head patches and the roar of 1,500 motorcycles. And sometimes, that was exactly what Salva, then Marcus, came back. The leader of those 25 bikers, a man with a daughter of his own and a heart hidden beneath leather and scars. He asked Christine to dinner. She said yes. But this is where the real story begins, because choosing kindness is one thing. Living with the consequences, navigating two worlds that were never meant to intersect, and standing strong when that choice gets tested, that's something else entirely. Welcome back. Let's find out what happens when Christine Murphy's new beginning faces its first real storm. Their first date was at a diner 30 miles outside Ridgefield, neutral territory where neither Christine's reputation nor Marcus's patch would draw too much attention. Christine hadn't been on a date in 4 years. She changed her outfit 3 times, settled on jeans and a sweater that Maya said made her look pretty, and told herself it was just dinner. Just two people getting to know each other. Just the most terrifying thing she'd done since opening her door to 25 strangers. Marcus was already there when she arrived, sitting in a back booth, looking somehow both out of place and completely comfortable. He'd left his cut at home, showed up in a simple black thermal and jeans, but there was no hiding what he was. The scars on his knuckles, the ink that crawled up his neck, the way he moved with the careful awareness of someone who'd learned early that relaxation could get you killed. But when he saw Christine, his entire face softened. "Hi," he said. Standing like this was some formal thing, like she was someone precious who deserved that kind of respect. "Hi," Christine slid into the booth across from him, and suddenly this felt real, possible. "Thanks for suggesting somewhere away from Ridgefield. I wasn't ready for the gossip yet." "There'll be gossip anyway. Small towns are like clubs, everyone knows everyone's business, and they all have opinions they didn't earn the right to share." Marcus smiled slightly. "But yeah, figured we could have one conversation without an audience." They talked for 3 hours, about everything and nothing. Christine learned that Marcus had been raised by his grandmother after his parents died in a car crash when he was 7. That he'd joined the Angels at 23, looking for the family he'd lost. That he'd been married once, briefly, to Lily's mom. A relationship built on passion that burned too hot and fast to last, but one that had given him his daughter, so he couldn't regret it. "Sarah, Lily's mom, she's good people," Marcus said. "We weren't right for each other, but we're good at being Lily's parents. That's what matters." "That's mature," Christine said. "Derek and I. We're not good at anything together, including co-parenting. He sends a check once a month, never asks about Maya. I don't even know if he thinks about her." "His loss." Marcus's voice went hard. "Seriously. Any man who walks away from his kid is missing out on everything that matters." Christine told Marcus about her parents, about losing them to cancer within 6 months of each other right before Maya was born. About how Derek had been supportive at first, but then the medical bills and the grief had crushed something in their marriage, and he'd found someone easier at his office. Someone without baggage and debt, and a baby who cried all night. "I don't blame him for leaving," Christine said quietly. "I was a mess, I'm still—" "Don't do that." Marcus reached across the table, covered her hand with his. His palm was rough, scarred, warm. "Don't diminish yourself. You survived loss that would break most people. You raised a daughter alone. You showed kindness to strangers when you had every reason to be bitter and scared. That's not a mess, Christine, that's strength. Tears burned behind her eyes, but Christine blinked them back. You see me differently than most people. I see you accurately. Most people are just scared to look. They left the diner after midnight, standing in the parking lot under stars that looked sharper in the cold. Marcus walked Christine to her van, the same beaten Honda that Tom had finally tuned up, and hesitated. "I'd like to do this again," he said. "If you would." "I would." Christine surprised herself with how much she meant it. "But Marcus, I need to be honest. I don't know how to do this. Date someone in your world. I don't know the rules, the expectations. There are no rules." Marcus stepped closer, and Christine's breath caught. "Just honesty, just showing up, just being real with each other. Can you do that?" "Yes. Then that's all I need." He leaned down, slow, careful, giving her every chance to pull away, and kissed her forehead. Gentle, reverent. The kind of kiss that promised more but didn't demand it. Christine drove home feeling like she was floating, like maybe this impossible thing could actually work. She should have known better. Nothing good in her life had ever come without complications. Derek Murphy showed up in Ridgefield 2 weeks later, 3 days after Christmas, driving a BMW that cost more than Christine's yearly rent. He'd put on weight, lost some hair, and gained the kind of smugness that came from a comfortable life untouched by real consequences. Christine opened her door to find him standing on her porch, and every good feeling from the past month evaporated. "Derek," her voice came out flat, "what are you doing here? Is that any way to greet your ex-husband?" Derek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I heard some interesting stories about you, Christine. Thought I'd come see for myself." "Stories about what?" "About you getting cozy with bikers, about the Hells Angels showing up at your door, about you dating some criminal named Marcus." Derek's smile sharpened into something cruel. "I have to say, I'm concerned. Concerned about the kind of environment you're providing for my daughter." Christine's hands clenched into fists at her sides. "Your daughter? You haven't called Maya in 8 months. You send a check and think that makes you a father. I send money that keeps a roof over her head. Money you clearly needed. Based on the sob story, you must have told those bikers to get them to give you cash." Derek leaned against her doorframe, casual and vicious. "Is that what you do now, Christine? Play the victim for men who don't know better?" The words hit like physical blows. Christine felt her face flush, rage and shame warring in her chest. "Get off my porch." "I don't think so. Not until we talk about custody." Derek's expression shifted, became calculating. "You're dating a criminal, Christine, a member of an outlaw motorcycle gang. That's not a safe environment for a child. My lawyer thinks I have a strong case for primary custody." The world tilted. "You don't even want her. You never wanted her." "I want to make sure she's safe. And right now, with you making questionable choices, dating dangerous men, I don't think she is." Derek pulled out his phone, showed Christine a photo. It was her and Marcus at the diner, his hand covering hers on the table. Someone had taken it through the window. "This is evidence of poor judgment. Of you putting your own desires above Maya's well-being. That's not, we were just." "Save it for the judge." Derek pocketed his phone. "I'll be filing for custody in January, unless, of course, you want to do this the easy way. Break it off with your biker boyfriend. Prove you can make responsible choices. Show me you're putting Maya first." Christine couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the panic rising in her throat. "You can't do this. You can't just show up after years of barely acknowledging her existence and threaten to take her away." "Watch me." Derek straightened, adjusted his expensive coat. "You have until New Year's to decide. Either end your relationship with Marcus or I file for custody. Your choice, Christine. Choose wisely." He walked back to his BMW, climbed in, and drove away, leaving Christine standing on her porch feeling like the ground had opened up beneath her feet. Inside, Maya called out, "Mommy." "Who was that?" Christine closed her eyes, forced her voice steady. "Nobody, baby. Just someone selling something." She couldn't tell her daughter that her father, the man who'd abandoned them both, had just threatened to tear their world apart. That night, after Maya was asleep, Christine sat at her kitchen table and cried. Not gentle tears, but the kind of sobbing that came from somewhere deep and broken, the kind that acknowledged just how unfair this was. She'd finally found something good, Someone who saw her, valued her, made her feel like she was more than just a struggling single mom. And now she had to choose between that and her daughter. It wasn't even a choice. Maya came first. Maya would always come first. But God, it hurt. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, "How's your evening?" Lily's asking when she can have another playdate with Maya. Christine stared at the message for a long time. She could text back normally, pretend everything was fine, buy herself a few more days of this fragile happiness before she had to end it. Or she could be honest. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. She called him. "Hey," Marcus answered, voice warm. "I was just thinking about Christine." "What's wrong?" The concern in his voice made her cry harder. "Derek showed up. My ex, he's threatening to fight for custody of Maya. He has a photo of us at the diner. He says I'm making poor choices, dating you, creating an unsafe environment." The words tumbled out, broken and desperate. "He said I have to end this or he files for custody in January." Silence on the other end. "Then where are you?" "Home, Marcus, I can't. I'm coming over, don't argue, I'm coming over." He hung up before Christine could protest. Marcus arrived 40 minutes later. He must have broken every speed limit between Bozeman and Ridgefield. Christine opened the door, and he pulled her into his arms without a word, just held her while she shook. "I'm sorry," Christine whispered against his chest. "I'm so sorry, but I can't lose Maya, I can't if I have to choose." "You choose Maya, every time, of course you do." Marcus pulled back, cupped her face in his rough hands. "But Christine, your ex is bluffing. He's trying to control you through fear. He has a photo, evidence that you're what, dating someone. That's not illegal. That's not abuse, that's not neglect." Marcus's voice was fierce. "You're a good mother, the best. Any judge would see that in 30 seconds. But you're a Hell's Angel. The club, the reputation, is mine, not yours. And even if they tried to make it an issue, I'd testify. Smoke would testify. Hell, every brother who was here that night would tell a judge about the woman who showed kindness to strangers, who has raised a smart, kind, brave little girl." Marcus's eyes burned with intensity. "You're not alone in this, Christine. You have people who will fight for you, brothers who owe you everything. I can't ask that of you, of the club. You're not asking. We're offering." Marcus brushed tears from her cheeks. "But if you want to end this, if dating me genuinely puts Maya at risk, not just in your ex's manipulative threats but in reality, I'll walk away. I'll hate it, but I'll do it. Your daughter comes first. I understand that." Christine looked at this man who'd ridden into her life on a wave of unexpected salvation, who'd seen her at her lowest and offered dignity instead of pity, who understood that her child came first and loved her more for it, not less. "I don't want to end this," she whispered. "Then don't, not yet. Let me make some calls. Let me talk to brothers who have dealt with custody battles, who know lawyers who specialize in this. Let's get facts before we make decisions based on fear." Marcus pressed his forehead to hers. "Please, Christine, let us help you. That's what family does." Family. The word hit Christine hard because she hadn't had family, real family, the chosen kind that showed up when things got hard in so long. "Okay," she said. "Okay." Within 24 hours, the Hells Angels network mobilized like a military operation. Smoke called from Billings with the name of a family law attorney who'd successfully defended 3 brothers in custody battles. The lawyer, Karen Chen, specialized in cases where one parent weaponized stereotypes against the other. She agreed to take Christine's case pro bono after hearing the full story. Tyler, the young kid who'd been coughing that first night, turned out to have a mom who was a social worker. She provided Christine with documentation protocols, explained what judges actually looked for in custody evaluations, and helped her compile evidence of Derek's neglect over the past 3 years. A brother from the Helena chapter who worked in private investigation offered to look into Derek's life in California. "If he's threatening you," the guy told Christine over the phone, "chances are good he's got skeletons. Let me find them." And Marcus was everywhere, helping Christine organize her documentation, sitting with her while she talked to Karen Chen, holding Maya when Christine had to take phone calls she didn't want her daughter to hear. He never pushed, never demanded, just showed up and stayed. "I don't understand why you're doing this," Christine said one evening, after Maya was in bed and they were sitting on her couch surrounded by paperwork. "You've known me for 6 weeks. This is a lot, Marcus." You're right, it is a lot. Marcus set down the document he'd been reading, a timeline of Derek's financial contributions to Maya's life. But I learned something about myself that night I met you. I learned that I've been going through the motions for a long time. Club, rides, brotherhood, it all mattered, but it felt, I don't know, incomplete, like I was waiting for something that would make it all make sense. He looked at Christine, really looked at her. Then I watched you open your door to 25 strangers who scared you. Watched you choose kindness over fear, and I thought, that's it. That's what I've been missing, that's what actually matters. He reached for her hand. So yeah, I've only known you 6 weeks. But in those 6 weeks, you've reminded me what kind of man I want to be. Not just for Lily, but for myself. That's worth fighting for. I want to pause here and ask you something. What do you think Derek's real motivation is? Do you think he genuinely wants custody of Maya, or is this about something else? Control, pride, revenge. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing your predictions and theories. And if you're invested in seeing how this custody battle plays out, make sure you're subscribed. Because what happens next involves private investigators, some surprising discoveries, and a courtroom showdown that nobody saw coming. Let's get back to the story. The private investigator, a grizzled brother named Dutch who'd been with the Angels for 40 years, called Christine on New Year's Eve. Found something you need to know about, Dutch said without preamble. Your ex is in financial trouble. Big trouble. He took out a second mortgage on his house 6 months ago, maxed out 3 credit cards, and there are rumors at his company that he's about to be let go. Christine's heart sank. So he needs Maya's social security benefits, that's what this is about. Partially, but there's more. Dutch paused. He's also got a new girlfriend, younger, expensive taste. And she's been posting all over social media about their future family and the sweet little stepdaughter she can't wait to meet. Ice flooded Christine's veins. He told someone he's getting custody, before he even filed. He's that confident. He's that arrogant. But here's the thing, this girlfriend has a record. DUI 2 years ago, some shoplifting charges when she was younger. Nothing major, but it's there. And your ex is trying to argue you're creating an unsafe environment? Dutch snorted. That's rich. Can we use this? Your lawyer can. I'm sending everything over to Karen Chen right now. Bank statements, social media screenshots, the whole package. Dutch's voice softened. Listen, Christine, I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of custody cases. Your ex is bluffing with a weak hand, trying to scare you into folding. Don't fold. Christine hung up and immediately called Karen Chen, who answered despite it being 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I just got Dutch's files, Karen said, and Christine could hear the satisfaction in her voice. This is good, really good. Derek's financial situation, the girlfriend's record, the social media posts that prove premeditation. This all supports our argument that his custody suit is about control and money, not Maya's best interests. So what do? We file a response that lays out your exemplary parenting, your stable home environment, your community support, and Derek's pattern of neglect. We include character references, and I understand you have some interesting ones. Karen paused. Christine, I'm going to be honest. The fact that you're dating a Hell's Angel is going to come up. Derek will make sure of it. We need to be prepared for that. Marcus offered to testify. Good, we'll use him. Not to hide his affiliation with the club, but to show the reality, that the Angels are a brotherhood committed to family and loyalty. That Marcus is a good father to his own daughter, a responsible man, and someone who makes you and Maya's life better, not worse. Karen's voice turned firm. Derek wants to paint you as irresponsible. We're going to show the judge who you really are. A woman who's overcome tremendous obstacles, who chose compassion over fear, and who is raising a happy, healthy, thriving child. Are you ready for this fight? Christine thought about Maya, asleep in her room with her stuffed rabbit. Thought about the life they'd built, small, imperfect, but theirs. Thought about Marcus and the brotherhood that had shown up when her own town had turned away. Yes, Christine said. I'm ready. The custody hearing was scheduled for late January. Derek filed his petition on January 2nd, just like he'd threatened. The document was 12 pages of character assassination dressed up as concern, describing Christine as financially unstable, emotionally vulnerable, and making poor choices that endangered their daughter. Reading it made Christine physically ill. But then the responses started coming in. Mrs. Henderson wrote a letter to the court describing how Christine had transformed the neighborhood by showing kindness to strangers, and how Maya was one of the most well-adjusted, happy children she'd ever seen. The Martins wrote about Christine's involvement in Maya's school, her dedication as a mother, her resilience. Pastor Ruth provided a statement about Christine's character and her positive influence on the community. And the angels. The angels showed up in force. 27 brothers submitted written statements to the court. Smoke wrote about the night Christine opened her door to freezing strangers and what it revealed about her character. Tyler's mom, the social worker, provided a professional assessment of Christine's parenting based on multiple observations. Marcus wrote 3 pages about Christine's dedication to Maya, her strength in the face of adversity, and the way she'd taught him what real courage looked like. "You have an army," Karen Chen told Christine during one of their preparation meetings. "And armies win wars." The hearing itself was in the Ridgefield County Courthouse, a small brick building that had seen 100 years of human drama play out in its single courtroom. Christine wore her best dress, a simple navy blue one that Maya said made her look like a princess, and tried not to throw up. Marcus waited outside. He couldn't be in the courtroom during the initial proceedings, but he'd be called to testify. He squeezed Christine's hand before she went in. "You've got this," he said. "Just tell the truth. The truth is on your side." Judge Patricia Morrison was in her 60s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that made Christine's stomach clench. She'd been on the bench for 30 years, and according to Karen Chen, had a reputation for fairness but zero tolerance for manipulation. Derek's lawyer went first, a slick guy from Missoula named Richard Kraft who made everything sound sinister. He described Christine's financial desperation and questionable associations. He presented the photo of Christine and Marcus at the diner like it was evidence of moral failure. "Your Honor," Kraft said smoothly, "Mr. Murphy is simply concerned about his daughter's welfare. Miss Murphy has become involved with a known member of an outlaw motorcycle gang. The Hells Angels have a documented history of criminal activity. Is this really the environment we want for a 6-year-old child?" Then, it was Karen Chen's turn. She stood up, a tiny woman, barely 5 feet tall, but with the presence of someone 3 times her size, and systematically dismantled Derek's case. "Your Honor, let's talk about Mr. Murphy's concern for his daughter." Karen pulled out phone records. "In the past 18 months, Mr. Murphy has called his daughter exactly 4 times, 4 calls in a year and a half. He's missed her birthday, Christmas, and every school event. His financial contributions are court-ordered child support. Nothing more, nothing less. This is not the behavior of a concerned father." Karen presented Dutch's findings, the financial troubles, the girlfriend with the record, the social media posts. "Mr. Murphy's sudden interest in custody aligns perfectly with his financial crisis and his new girlfriend's desire to play house. This is not about Maya's welfare. This is about control and money." Then Karen called her witnesses. Mrs. Henderson testified about Christine's character. Pastor Ruth described Christine's involvement in the community. Tyler's mom gave a professional assessment of Maya's well-being, thriving, happy, securely attached to her mother. And then Marcus took the stand. He looked out of place in the courtroom, too big for the witness chair, his tattoos visible at his collar and wrists, but he answered every question with calm honesty. "Mr. Reaper," Derek's lawyer said, voice dripping with disdain, "you're a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, correct?" "Yes, sir. I am. An outlaw organization with a history of criminal activity. The club has had members who broke the law, yes, just like every other organization in America, churches, police departments, corporations." Marcus's voice was steady. "But the club itself is a brotherhood. We support each other, we ride together, we take care of our families. And Miss Murphy is now part of your family. She is, because she showed kindness to my brothers when they needed it most, because she's the kind of person who makes the world better just by being in it." Marcus looked directly at the judge. "I have a daughter, Your Honor. She's 7. I understand what it means to put a child first. Christine does that every single day. Maya is happy, healthy, loved, and safe. That's what matters. But you can't deny that your lifestyle puts Miss Murphy and her daughter at risk." "My lifestyle?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I work construction, I pay my taxes. I share custody of my daughter with her mother, and we have a good co-parenting relationship. I ride a motorcycle, and I'm part of a club that values loyalty and brotherhood. None of that puts anyone at risk. What puts Maya at risk is a father who abandoned her for 3 years, suddenly trying to take her away from the only parent who's ever been there for her. The courtroom was silent. Then Karen Chen called Christine to the stand. Christine's hands shook as she was sworn in, but her voice was steady when she started speaking. She talked about the past 3 years, the struggles, the loneliness, the way Ridgefield had turned its back on her. She talked about Maya, about sacrificing heat for groceries, about doing everything she could to give her daughter a good life despite the obstacles. "Miss Murphy," Judge Morrison said, speaking for the first time, "tell me about the night you let the Hells Angels into your home." Christine took a breath. It was the coldest night of the year. 25 men were stranded outside my house, freezing. I called for help, but no one would come. I could have locked my door like everyone else did. Part of me wanted to, I was scared. But my daughter asked if they were okay, and I couldn't. I couldn't teach her that we only help people who look like us or seem safe, so I opened my door. "Even though you were afraid?" "Yes, Your Honor. Because being scared isn't a good enough reason to let people suffer." Judge Morrison studied Christine for a long moment. Then she turned to Derek. "Mr. Murphy, you've been sitting there looking very concerned, very much the worried father." The judge's voice was ice. "But I've reviewed the evidence. I've heard the testimony, and I have to ask, where was this concern for the past 3 years? Where were you when your daughter lost her grandparents? When her mother was struggling to keep the lights on? When she started kindergarten? When she learned to ride a bike? When she had nightmares?" Derek opened his mouth, but Judge Morrison held up a hand. "You've provided financial support as required by law, nothing more. No phone calls beyond the bare minimum. No visits, no presence in your child's life, and now, suddenly, you want custody?" Judge Morrison shook her head. "Mr. Murphy, this court is not a weapon for you to wield against your ex-wife because you disapprove of her choices. Maya Murphy has a good home, a loving mother, and a stable life. You've presented no evidence of actual endangerment, neglect, or abuse. What you've presented is prejudice dressed up as concern." The judge turned back to Christine. "Miss Murphy, I'm denying Mr. Murphy's petition for custody modification. Maya will remain with you as the primary custodial parent. Mr. Murphy's visitation rights and child support obligations remain unchanged." She fixed Derek with a hard stare. "And Mr. Murphy, if you ever try to weaponize this court system against your ex-wife again, you'll find me significantly less patient. This hearing is adjourned." The gavel came down like thunder. Christine sat there, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. She'd won. Maya was safe. They were going home together. Karen Chen squeezed her shoulder. "Told you. The truth was on your side." Outside the courtroom, Marcus was waiting. He searched Christine's face, and whatever he saw there made him smile, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "We won," he asked. "We won." Christine's voice broke. "Maya's staying with me. We won." Marcus pulled her into his arms, and Christine buried her face in his chest and cried. The good kind of crying. The kind that came from relief so profound it felt like falling. Behind them, she heard the sound of motorcycles. She pulled back to see Smoke, Tyler, and a dozen other brothers from that first night, waiting in the parking lot. They'd come to support her, to witness, to be there if she needed them. That was brotherhood, that was family. Derek left the courthouse without a word, climbed into his BMW and drove away. Christine watched him go and felt nothing. No anger, no bitterness, just a distant pity for a man who'd never understand what he'd lost. Spring came to Ridgefield with tentative warmth and the promise of new beginnings. Christine started taking classes at the community college, business management, with dreams of maybe opening her own bookstore someday. The angel money had given her breathing room to think about a future beyond just survival. Maya and Lily became inseparable. Every other weekend, when Marcus had custody, the 4 of them did things together, went to parks, had movie nights, built elaborate blanket forts that took over Christine's entire living room. The girls called themselves sisters, and neither Christine nor Marcus had the heart to correct them with technicalities. Because the truth was, somewhere between that first date and the custody battle, and all the quiet moments in between, Christine and Marcus had built something real. Something that looked like forever. They didn't rush it, didn't force it. Just let it grow naturally, like wildflowers pushing up through concrete. Stubborn, beautiful, impossible to ignore. In May, Marcus asked Christine and Maya to come to a club event, a family barbecue that the Angels held every spring. Christine hesitated, but Marcus squeezed her hand. "I want my brothers to know you," he said. "Really know you, not just as the woman they helped that night, but as the woman I love. The woman I love." The words hung in the air between them, huge and terrifying and perfect. "I love you too," Christine whispered. The barbecue was held at the clubhouse, a sprawling property outside of town with room for bikes, families, and the kind of chaos that came when Brotherhood gathered. Christine arrived with Maya and Lily, nervous despite Marcus's reassurances. She shouldn't have been. The moment they pulled up, women surrounded her, wives, girlfriends, old ladies who'd been with their brothers for decades. They welcomed Christine like she'd always been there, like she'd always belonged. Kids ran everywhere, playing tag and eating too much food while the men worked the grills and told exaggerated stories about their rides. It was loud and messy and overwhelming, and felt more like family than anything Christine had experienced since her parents died. Smoke found her near the dessert table, watching Maya and Lily play with a group of other kids. "You look happy," he said. "I am." Christine realized it was true, deeply, fundamentally true. "I didn't think I could be after everything, but I am." "You deserve it." Smoke pulled her into a brief, fatherly hug. "You saved us that night, more than you know. But you also saved Marcus. He was going through the motions before you. Now he's living. That's a gift. He saved me too. That's how it works. The best relationships, they save both people." Smoke smiled. "Welcome to the family, Christine, officially." That night, after Maya and Lily were asleep in sleeping bags in Marcus's RV, Christine and Marcus sat on the hood of his truck, watching stars and listening to the sound of laughter from the clubhouse. "Thank you," Christine said quietly. "For what?" "For being brave enough to come back. After that first night, you could have just ridden away, could have let it be one good deed and nothing more, but you came back." "I had to." Marcus pulled her closer. "You were the first person in a long time who saw me, really saw me, and wasn't scared. You looked past the patch and the reputation and just saw me. I'd been waiting my whole life for that. I wasn't going to let it slip away." Christine tilted her head up, and Marcus kissed her, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. "Maya asked me yesterday if you were going to be her new daddy," Christine said. Marcus's eyes widened. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that's a conversation you and I need to have first." Christine's heart pounded. "So, should we have that conversation?" "Yes." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Christine Murphy, I want to be in your life and Maya's life for as long as you'll have me. I want weekend pancake breakfasts and school pickups and all the boring, beautiful things that make a family. I want to teach Maya to ride a bike and be there when she graduates and walk her down the aisle someday if she'll let me. I want everything with you." Tears streamed down Christine's face. "That's what I want too." "Then let's do it. Not right away, let's take our time, do this right. But let's build toward it, toward forever." "Toward forever," Christine echoed. And under the Montana stars, surrounded by brotherhood and chosen family, Christine felt something she hadn't felt since before her parents died. Home. Not a place, but a person. Not a building, but a belonging. She'd opened her door to 25 freezing strangers one cold November night, and they'd brought her salvation. But the real salvation had come later, in the man who'd seen her strength and valued it, who'd stood by her through the worst, who'd shown her that family wasn't about blood or history, but about choice and loyalty and love. The cold had brought Marcus to her door, but it was warmth, the warmth of unexpected connection, of brotherhood tested and proven, of love that grew in the most unlikely soil, that had made him stay. 2 years later, Christine stood in a bookstore that bore her name. Murphy's Books and Coffee, read the sign above the door. A small shop in downtown Ridgefield that had once been abandoned but now bustled with customers. She'd used the angel money wisely, combined it with a small business loan, and built something that was entirely hers. Well, not entirely hers. Marcus had helped with construction. The angels had shown up on opening day, bringing flowers and customers, and enough good publicity that Christine's register hadn't stopped ringing for a month. Mrs. Henderson volunteered twice a week, helping with story time. Even Derek, from his distant life in California, had sent a card and a modest check, not enough to make up for years of absence, but something. Maya, now 8, helped after school, shelving books with serious concentration and chatting with customers like she'd been born to it. She wore a tiny leather bracelet that Marcus had given her, inscribed with Honorary Angel. She took it off for nothing. Lily came every weekend, and the two girls were planning a summer reading challenge that had half the kids in Ridgefield excited. Christine was restocking the romance section when she felt arms wrap around her from behind. "Busy day," Marcus murmured against her ear. "The best kind of busy." Christine turned in his arms, and the ring on her left hand caught the light. They'd gotten married 6 months ago, small ceremony at the clubhouse, officiated by a brother who happened to be an ordained minister, attended by everyone who mattered. Maya had been the flower girl. Lily had carried the rings. Christine had never been happier. "I have something to tell you," Marcus said, and his voice had that quality that meant big news. "Good something or bad something?" "Good, really good." Marcus's smile was enormous. "Sarah called. She got the job in Missoula. She's moving closer, which means we'll have Lily more," Christine finished, joy blooming in her chest. "Marcus, that's wonderful." "Yeah," he searched her face. "It'll mean adjusting schedules, probably having her during the week sometimes, all the complicated stepfamily stuff. It means more time with our daughter." "That's not complicated, that's perfect." "Our daughter," because Lily was that now, officially and unofficially. Just like Maya had taken to calling Marcus Dad, without anyone making a big deal of it. They'd blended into a family so naturally that Christine sometimes forgot they hadn't always been one. That night, after the bookstore closed and the girls were doing homework at the table, Christine stood in her kitchen and marveled at the ordinary miracle of her life. The house she'd almost lost was now filled with laughter. The town that had shunned her now welcomed her. The future that had looked so bleak now sparkled with possibility, and it had all started because she'd chosen kindness over fear. Because 25 strangers had needed help, and she'd opened her door. Because sometimes salvation comes on motorcycles, wearing leather and patches, looking nothing like you expected. Because family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's choice. Sometimes it's brotherhood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when everyone else walks away. Marcus came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "That night," Christine said, "the one that changed everything. Cold night, best night of my life." "Mine too." Christine leaned back against him, solid and warm and hers. "Thank you for knocking on my door." "Thank you for opening it." Outside, the sound of motorcycles rumbled past, brothers heading home, heading out, heading somewhere with engines that sang of freedom and loyalty and roads that stretched toward horizons only they could see. Inside, 2 little girls giggled over math homework, and a woman who'd once thought she'd lost everything realized she'd found it all. In the spaces between fear and courage. In the choice between locked doors and open hearts. In the unexpected salvation that came when you believed people, even the ones the world told you to fear, could surprise you, could save you, could love you, could become your family. Christine Murphy had opened her door to 25 freezing Hell's Angels one November night. And they'd brought her home. And that's where we'll leave Christine, Marcus, Maya, and Lily, building their forever in a town that learned that kindness changes everything, and that family is something you choose every single day. So I want to ask you, what moment in this story touched your heart the most? Was it Christine opening her door that first night? The 1,500 angels showing up to honor her? Marcus standing by her in the custody battle? Or maybe the quiet ending, where they built a beautiful, ordinary life together? Drop your answer in the comments. I love hearing what resonates with you. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that courage can look like opening a door, that family can be found in the most unexpected places, then please hit that subscribe button. Because I have so many more stories like this one. Stories about redemption, about unexpected heroes, about the bonds that form when we choose connection over fear. Thank you for riding this journey with Christine and Marcus. Until the next story, remember, sometimes the people who scare us the most are the ones who will save us. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is open our door. And sometimes, salvation comes wearing leather and riding thunder. I'll see you in the next one.